What's up, everybody? This is episode 50. Nate, what's up?
Nothing good.
Nothing good.
Nope.
You ain't got your cell cameras out yet, do you?
I do not.
I was going to ask you if you've been seeing anything on those.
I am having difficulty updating the firmware. One of these days I will get it figured out. It is operator error. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
But if I would have a smart person to work on it, I bet it would work.
I'm not smart, but I remember talking about the computer. Now you should have brought them with you. I could have worked on that.
Correct. I forgot.
Yeah.
But hopefully I'll get it done this weekend somehow. Get them guys up sometime in the near future. Not having any exciting pictures so far. Any big deer or anything. Lots of up-and-comers. You know, there's a bunch of them. But I have not been out. Still waiting on something. I don't know what it is, but I guess I'm still waiting on it.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. I've only been one time, but got a couple decent pictures finally of a couple bucks that Amanda named for us. So we got Spencer and Ghost now.
Spencer.
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to ask her. Ghost is because he's blurry-faced. I was just going to call him Blurry-Face, but Ghost. So we got Ghost and Spencer.
Okay.
They're on the hit list.
Yep.
On one of the farms. But both nighttime right now.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure where they're bedding it, and it may be far enough away where I can't really hunt them until the rut rolls around and gets them up on their feet. So.
Yeah.
But I did move one of the cell cameras I was telling you about to the south side of the woods that you've hunted before on that particular place. And I'm hoping, I put a little mock script there, I'm hoping I'll get more pictures because I hadn't got much in the woods there by the pond.
Is that where you had the little blind there?
Yeah. Yeah, right across from there, there's that opening between the woods and the fence row where they run equipment through. I've seen good deer in the past. It's where I had the chance at that Big 10 last year that I didn't shoot at 40. But I'm going to hopefully get more pictures there than I had in the woods because it was pretty dead in there right now. And usually it is. They did just get the corn out on both sides this week. So that'll make a little bit of difference with them moving through the woods using that. Usually it does. They don't start really using the middle of the woods until the crops are out. But they're still traveling the edges pretty hard, I think, too. So that particular location, those three edges kind of come together, two sides of the woods and then that fence row. And boy, before the corn was out, they had the dirt loose from where they were traveling that edge between the fence row and the standing corn.
Yeah.
How's the bridge to get back there? Is it still pretty sketchy?
No, they fixed it.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good now.
Yeah.
The road's better again, too. It was pretty washed out at the time, or at one time. But no, I know you did have one buck, though, and I talked a little bit about him last week without you here. Similar to Fatty from last year.
Yeah.
I know you're pretty excited about seeing him.
Man, there's some real bad genetics. Just small racked, huge-bodied 8-pointers, you know, and they're all mean. They intend to run all the other deer off. But yeah, I had a buck last year. I called him Fatty. Honestly, think that he could have been close to 300 pounds live weight.
Oh yeah.
I think he had a shot at it. You know, before he ever got ran down any. The neighbors did find him dead the first week in November. I don't know what happened to him. It's great.
You don't really care either, do you?
Nope. He's not the deer that I wanted to shoot. I would have been tickled to shoot him, though. You know, I had 3 other bucks that were much nicer racked than him. But if he walked by, it was absolutely going to be him that I was going to shoot at. Because he was a bully, you know. He really was. He would come out in the food plot last year, and he'd just run all the other deer off about an hour after dark. He'd run them all off, and he'd eat for like 3 hours. Nothing else would be in the plot with him, you know. And he's a fighter. Like, he intended to push his way around, and he could, you know. So anyway, yeah, I got some. This deer is a little nicer racked than Fatty was last year. But gosh, it's got to be offspring, you know. And I know I got that in the does too, you know. But
yeah,
anyway.
it's carried there too.
Oh yeah,
as well. Sure.
So anyway, yeah, I showed you guys the picture. Like, he's already got a busted tine. You know, he's already been fighting, trying to get these other bucks out of there. Apparently, so I mean, it's man, I feel like this is going
Write
to be
his name on one of your tags.
Yep, I feel like this is going to be a struggle.
Stamp that.
Yeah. Don't have any daytime pictures of him right now, which is not good, you know.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Hard to get rid of him if he's not around on you in the daylight.
Correct. So anyway, I would love to get rid of him. Right now, he is my number one. I do not think he'd make 130 inches as an 8-pointer. But as far as what I'd like to shoot right now, it is him, just based off what I've seen so far.
Yeah. And looking at the pictures of Fatty that you sent me from last year, he's easy. I think he's easy 300. But it's interesting because the first picture you sent me of him was on the 6th of October, and then the next one would have been the 16th, which is pretty close to where you picked this one up.
Yeah.
Seems like.
Yeah. October 26th. We were talking about October 26th last year. That is the last picture right there that I have of him. And he just, he's huge. I mean, his front end just doesn't stop until it gets to his ears.
No, it doesn't.
You know?
It doesn't.
Yep, that was the last picture of him. I think somewhere November 4, November 6.
He's
somewhere,
sick.
Somewhere in there is where the neighbors found him in the creek, and he'd been dead for a few days.
Yeah.
But I don't know if somebody finally got the best of him. I mean, it'd be odd. Way back in there, he did not get hit by a vehicle. You know, way back in there where they're at, he did not get hit by a vehicle.
Maybe he had a heart attack.
I mean, he could have. Like, his cholesterol should have been out of this world. You know, like,
Well, you feed him high cholesterol clover or something.
yes, like, he had to be diabetic.
Yeah.
What, non-compliant diabetic? Yeah. But yeah, he. I mean, I know that illness has to run in deer as well, but like he did not look like he was anything but healthy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Right. He and I talked about it, and we talked about it before on the episode where we talked about the buck that you killed last year. Potentially, him dying had a lot to do with yours sticking around.
Correct.
Finally.
Correct. We've talked before. Last year, I had that would have been 4 mature bucks, 4 bucks, 4.5 years old or older, right there. What I'm going to call on the farm. I mean, I was getting their picture at least every couple of days. You know, each one, I was getting their picture at least every couple of days. Never had anything like that before. But Fatty had a bigger body than all of them. He was going to get to do wherever he was at. He was going to be the boss at the time.
And he had the attitude to go with it.
Absolutely. So, the buck I killed last year, the year before, he disappeared from, I think it was November 5th until the day after Thanksgiving. He's just gone. I think Fatty had a lot to do with that.
Yep.
You know, because they should have been the same age. From what I think, they should have been the same age. But Fatty had, I don't know, 60 or 80 pounds on him.
Yeah, I'd say at least.
So anyway, I think my deer, 2 years ago now, I think he just probably left because of the pressure, know.
We didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, from a more mature buck in the area. But then last year there was several, older bucks in the area. But until Fatty was gone, I wasn't seeing any of mine. I never saw mine in the daylight until Fatty was gone, So I think that did open the door for him. If Fatty would have still been around, there's no telling what it might have been like.
Yep. Which brings us into this year, and I guess you'll know more. Like you said, a lot of up-and-comers. You don't necessarily have anything like the deer you shot last year yet, but we'll see. That is why you're concerned about the deer you got this year, because he's just a carbon copy of that deer, like you said.
Pretty much.
Bigger rack.
Maybe
a little bit smaller bodied, but real similar deer.
Yeah. He's surely not as old as Fatty was. He's at least 4.
Maybe 4.5 instead of 5.5. Yeah.
But I mean, he's long and heavy, and and ain't got much on his head.
Yep.
And I already busted up. So he's gosh.
Yep. He's already running deer off.
Yes.
He'll run off your 3-year-olds, and you won't see them next year.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, you have to put his name on a tag this year.
Correct.
Take care of him, unless you get lucky like last year.
Yep.
Could happen.
Something takes care of it for me.
Could happen.
Yep.
But no, anything. I mean, as far as the up and comers, anything you think might turn into something pretty good?
I don't know. I think they're 3 and 4 year olds. I think I've got a really nice a really nice 2.5-year-old 10-point. Just, really thin neck, pretty shaped rack, little rack. He's already got 10 tines, you know. He's a good-looking little buck. I sure want him to make it. And he's around a bunch, you know, as you'd expect a 2.5-year-old to be. But yeah, the other guys, I think a lot of them are 3. A couple of them might be 4. They could sure use another year. But they're not bad. I think 3 of them are in the 140s. But I might be setting my sights too high here compared to normal, just because of what I had last year.
Yeah.
You know, 3 bucks over 160 around. I don't ever really remember legitimate 160 staying around.
Let alone
in years before that I was aware of.
Yeah.
You know.
Let alone 3 of them.
Correct.
Yeah.
And now I think the one I killed, I know that he stayed there close. The other 2 that were around, I think their range just barely brought them onto my place.
Right.
At a regular interval.
Yep.
You know.
You're on the edge of their home range.
Correct. Yeah. And the one buck, we talked about him traveling. He would travel 4 miles, you know, up to 4 miles, 2.5 miles regularly.
Yeah.
Because me and the neighbor, 22-inch wide 10-pointer with like a 4-inch, you know, sticker point sticking out at a 45-degree angle on his base. That's a very identifiable buck.
Yep.
You know. And he's got his pictures, and then 8 hours later, you know, the next morning I have his picture, and then vice versa, you know, the next 2 days. But that thing just ran all the time.
Yeah. So you think he might have been 4.5?
I think he was, at least.
A lot of times when you get up to 5.5 and 6.5, and they hit a certain spot where there'll be more you might see them more in the daylight, but their home range generally shrinks the older the get.
Yeah,
correct.
You'll find that happen
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Just like us, yeah.
Yeah.
You'll shrink a little.
Yeah.
Your home range.
I can stand it.
But yeah, I cannot think that a dominant buck, a mature dominant buck, would want to run like that. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
That
He wouldn't have to.
No.
You wouldn't think.
No.
Unless he was one of those deer that just absolutely wanted nothing to do with another buck.
Yeah.
So he was moving to one spot, and then one of the other mature bucks showed up, so he was going back and then kind of getting ping-ponged around. But
Yeah.
and some of them just move more than others.
Yeah. I think he had to be somewhat of an exception in how much he did move, because there's not even anything to really connect him, and I'm talking drawing a line from the closest corner of my property to the neighbors to his closest corner. You know, like and that was 1.8 miles straight across. You know, nothing, just wide open and crossing fence rows. You know, he didn't get there like that.
Right.
You know, middle of the night maybe, but I find it hard to believe he crossed 2 different creek systems, you know, to get there. I have no idea how he might have used that, you know, but he had to cross 2 different creek systems to get there even, you know. I can't figure that one out completely, you know what I mean? But anyway.
It's hard to imagine that he would be the dominant buck in that whole entire area.
No. And he wasn't too big a bodied. He really wasn't. My deer had a bigger body, and then Fatty absolutely did. But yeah, he very identifiable, and he just ran all the time.
And was it MSU that had the study where that one deer it was either between his summer range and his fall range, or his fall range spanned like 18 miles. He would make that trip and he'd cross the Mississippi. Do you remember that one? Seeing that one?
I don't think so. I see a lot of their stuff. I like
think
their
I've seen
stuff.
it too.
They
Well,
got
it's
some
been
good
last
stuff.
year.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah. It's been last year, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's one of their more popular bucks that people follow because he crosses the Mississippi or whatever. But like I said, I think his farthest distant travel is like 18 miles.
That's just crazy.
Crazy. There was a buck. I videoed him on October 4th, and I don't know if I've ever showed you the video. I'd have to go back and find it again. But just a stud 8-point, like 160s easy with a 6-inch drop tine probably off his right side several years ago now. But I filmed him, you know, just not too far north of town. And he ended up getting shot in gun season, like you said with that 10-point. Easily identifiable deer.
Yeah.
Chances of there being 2 deer like that in the same county,
Yeah.
that exact same, is pretty slim.
Yeah.
He ended up getting killed, what we can figure, best we can figure, by the guy who killed it, where we thought he hunted at the time, just right south of Johnsonville.
Wow.
So, that's 10 miles
Yeah.
at least.
Man.
So maybe more than that, depending on where exactly he was at. But that was on October 4th when I saw him, and never saw him again.
Yeah.
So, and it could have been one of those deals where that was his summer range was there around where I was hunting.
Yeah.
And then his fall range ended up being farther north, wherever he ended up. Or he could have just been one of those roaming bucks that travels all the time. I don't know, but just goes to show how far they can move.
Yeah.
And you had a chance at that, almost had a chance at that 10 you're talking about last year before you shot your buck, right? During bow season?
Yeah. I had him at 60, and then I had him at like 110. Two different times, 60 and then 110, And the first time he was just slipping. I mean, he was coming up out of a creek system there on me. Got out of the main creek channel or draw, and he was coming up just a finger, a low spot, a draw up toward me. And I saw him coming into the woods, and he was messing around, picking around, and I grunted at him soft twice, but I won't call at him any more than that. He could see too good, and that he ain't gonna. If he can see good enough, there was just a slight hill. I thought he might not be able to see over the hill good enough, up there to where I was at. But I grunted twice, and he looked both times, but he just looked for about 3 seconds, and then he
heard you.
He heard me.
Yeah.
He already had in his mind what he wanted to do, but he was headed for the neighbors. I mean, that's the direction he was headed, He picked his way through the woods, and then I lost him. I couldn't see him any further, but he was headed for the neighbors. And then that other time at 110, super windy. I had to have got pretty close to him going into the stand that day, because I take a draw slipping in around the woods, and I come up into that stand. I hadn't been in, because when I was walking, I saw a spike in the weeds, real tall weeds, I saw a spike like 40 yards away. I could just see his head, and he's looking away from me. Super windy that day. I froze. I looked around. I finally decided that's all it was, and I got real low, and I just took off walking again. Popped up and looked. The spike never knew I was there. I mean, super windy. But I got around him, got crawled up in the tree. 20 minutes later or so, I look out there, and here he is standing, the big buck, the big 10. He's out there with the doe. And then there's that spike, 40 yards away from them. I thought, that's what that spike had to be looking at the whole time. He could see him from where he was, but I couldn't, But I had to have just slipped around him. But he had a doe out there that he was messing with, and they just stayed out there the whole night in the weed patch. They wouldn't come out of there. That was, I don't know, probably about November 10. But then the neighbor ended up killing him.
Right. Yeah.
Second day, Saturday of first gun season.
It's interesting what you're talking about there with him being bedded and slipping right by him. Bill Winky's back to putting stuff on.
Is he?
YouTube, doing stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of on his own.
Yeah.
But I always really like watching his stuff.
Yeah.
I think he does a pretty good job.
Yep.
But he was talking about a deer that he killed last year and learning a lot of stuff about bedding and their bedding areas that, you think but just learning new stuff every year. And how much you can get away with, especially like you said, if you got a little bit of wind, because deer hear about like we do. So as long as you're not making too much noise where we could hear it, they're not going to hear you.
Yeah.
If you got the right wind and it's blowing a little bit, you can get away with a lot, slipping in 50, 75 yards of a bedding area and never bumping those deer.
Yeah.
And he said he would do that. He did that a lot. I think it was last year he ended up killing his buck. But he was talking about doing that and how early deer actually get back to their bedding area. Most of the time it's before daylight. So a lot of times where you think about going in and hunting those deer on the way back to bedding in the mornings, most of the time they're already back in their beds anyway.
Yeah.
But it was just interesting that you were talking about being so close to that deer like that. And then I just watched him talking about that the other day, where you can really get away with a lot close to their bedding as far as movement goes.
Yeah.
As long as you're not going in front of them, where they can see you.
Yeah.
And your wind's not blowing to them.
Yeah.
So
we used to hunt pretty cool late cornfields when the wind is blowing.
Yeah.
And corn rustles around.
Yeah.
the movement and the noise. Never had any luck out of it. Had a lot of fun. It's just a cool way to hunt if you want to kill a couple hours in the middle of the afternoon or whatever.
Yep.
You kind of walk across the rows and you stop and you look and you move on. You stop and you look.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a good afternoon if you're on a deer camp or something, and you know where there's a corn patch. And you think, well, I ain't doing nothing anyway. We got, it's too late for morning, too early for afternoon.
Yeah.
We'll just sneak out there, and it's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Like I said, I never had any luck at it, but
what would you have done if you popped your head through that row and there laid a great big one with his eyes about half shut?
I'd have shot him
10 or 15 yards away.
Well, we got that idea from, I think it was a video, might have been Dan Fitzgerald back before you guys were born.
Yep.
He done that a time or two, I think, on some of his videos.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's just a good way to kill an afternoon if you're on a deer camp or something.
Yeah.
And you're not taking a nap and the wind's blowing and there's some corn out rustling around. It's neat.
Yeah. I read an article one time in a very old book about doing that, and they gave a very specific drawing, how you'd want to do it.
Yep.
Whether you got wind blowing down the rows or wind blowing across the rows, and the best way to try to work at it,
Yeah.
And it made a lot of sense.
Did you ever try it?
No. I was like, man, what would I do? I popped my head through a row, and there he lays looking at me, 5 yards away. All of a sudden,
Yeah. Yeah.
Do
That could happen.
Do you grab him? What do you do?
Hey, ride him.
Yeah.
If you stand on a full 8 seconds, you
Yeah.
get a belt buckle or something.
I would think, for me, thinking about it, if I was doing it, if I did that for about 20 minutes, I'd think, well, this is crazy, And then all of a sudden you pop your head through a row, and there one is, You would have to really stay focused the whole time.
I think you just go with the idea that, hey, let's just kill some time, have some fun.
Yeah.
If we end up at the end of the cornfield, we end up at the end of the corn. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
If you're into hunting and you got buddies and you're at a camp or in a cabin or something and you ain't got nothing else to do.
Yep.
And you're not into watching TV soap operas at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Or 1.
Yeah.
Let's get out and move around a little bit. And it's a different kind of hunting.
Oh, yeah.
You just go with it with that mindset that,
Yeah.
hey, it is what it is.
Yep. Real windy days, I do like trying to get down with them, and mess around. They're going to be low, wherever they're going to be low and thick stuff on real windy days, at least is my experience. And I'd get in there and I'd play with them. I had a awesome hunt one time years ago, but there was a grown-up weed patch with a wooded draw that ran kind of worked its way through the bottom of that weed patch, So I got in there, just started at the downwind side, eased my way in there, stayed in the creek most of the time. I would pop up and I'd get next to a tree, I'd look and listen, I'd grunt. Every now and then I'd have something respond, I'd have little bucks. I forget how many. I saw like 30 deer that day. Now that was over a half a mile, and that's where they wanted to be, but they were all down in that low spot. And surprisingly, they never even picked me out, because they were out in the weeds, in the draw, out in the weeds, and I just stayed in the creek most of the time.
Yep.
But it worked very good. I saw 2 different shooters, just couldn't make it happen,
Right.
I mean, it'd be tough to do, when you're down in the thicket, and you never know when it might happen. That was a lot of fun.
There were several studies done, and I can't tell you what the mile per hour is like the deer will move up to a certain point and then they won't, and then they will again.
Yep.
And I don't know what that is, but there's a lot of studies done out there. If you're interested in doing that kind of hunting, you can look that up and see based on what conditions you're in, whether they're should be sitting still or should be laid up. Or moving.
You talk about walking through the creek like that. Buddy of mine does a lot of rock hunting, and he does it in the bottom of creeks. So he's all the time telling me, and sometimes it's out of season or October, but he's out there in the middle of the day, so these deer are bedded up. A lot of times, if you get into a thick creek bottom, the deer are going to be bedded close to the creek. He's telling me all the time he's walking through the creek and either hear something, pop his head up, and there's a decent buck laying there, 20, 30 yards away. Just has no idea he's down there.
Yep.
Take a picture and back down the creek, and away he goes. You know, he said a few times he'll sit there and kind of mess with them a little bit just to see how much he can get away with.
Yeah.
But rarely, if he doesn't want them to, will they even know he's there.
Yeah.
Because like you said, as long as you got the wind, and even being down in that creek, if your wind's blowing at them, it's probably going to come down and swirl in that creek, and who knows where it's going after that.
Oh, yeah.
So if you've got your sound covered and they aren't seeing you, pop your head up, and most of the time they're not watching the creek. Mm-hmm. That's why they're bedding where they are.
Yep.
They're watching the other way.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's definitely a different way to do it where I could see having some success at it.
Yep. I think in the creek, most of your sound has to go up to get out of the creek.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the creek bank should keep it. If they're on the bank not too far away, I don't think they hear very much.
Right.
You know, your sound's pretty much going up, in my opinion. And then the wind, you know, I think it's probably going to follow the channel a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the draws and everything around. But it's just pretty much as good as being underground, in my opinion.
Yep.
Slipping in, you know. Me and Blake had this one stand that we would go to. We had to get in the creek in a canoe on the big creek.
Yeah.
We'd paddle up the creek, you know, to get up to that stand and then go down another ditch coming down. Fantastic entry and exit.
Oh, yeah.
Ton of work. It took an hour both ways, you know.
Yeah.
Because we had to walk a half mile to get to the canoe. You know, I mean, it took forever. But it was great. It was the only decent way to get in there, you know, where they were. We were just messing around in the creek one time in the summer, paddling up and down, you know, there where we could be. We came around a bend. It looked like there was a fawn laying there on the ditch bank, and it just looked at us. And then it just freaked out and took off. You know, it had never, ever had that happen to it before. You know,
Probably not, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was not prepared for that.
Yeah, really, that if you're in the creek or even on a canoe or your little paddle boat, whatever it is, that's some of the best entry and exit you can get, and you're not leaving any scent either.
Nope.
That's a thing. And
Yep.
really, deer aren't traveling the bottom of a creek too much.
No.
That's why you see maybe they cross here, they go down into the creek in one spot and they go up 20 yards and then they come up out of it in another spot. But most of the time they're not walking the bottom of the creek. They can't see anything.
No.
They're not going to be able to smell very good. They're not going to be able to hear very good. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to be down there. So you don't, unless you catch them down in there crossing that creek, you're not running too much risk of actually bumping them out of there.
Yeah.
Until you come up out of it, which is where you got to be careful. But again, you can just poke your head up out of there a little bit and put up your binoculars, make sure it's clear, scurry on up, go up your tree or go up to it.
Yep.
So
that spot worked really well for us. So we never killed anything there, but we always saw a bunch of deer, and it was perfect the way it was. So it was a big creek. I mean, small river, whatever you want to call it. You know?
Right.
We'd paddle up in the canoe. We'd jam it up in a feeder ditch, you know. That ditch was probably 8 foot deep, but I think it was only about 80 yards, best I can remember. And then it would be to where you could just step across it, you know. It headed out pretty quick. So you had the big main creek channel, river channel. You had this thing coming off of it, perpendicular, you know, running out through the big woods. And then right where that thing headed out, where you could walk across it, it was about 30 yards from there to the edge of a big thicket. So we would get in there, and our tree was on the bank of that little ditch, right there in the area where it headed out. So we knew that they weren't going to get between us and the river 90% of the time. So it was perfect. Our shot was going to be between that tree and the thicket, and everything was going to come right in front of us because they wanted to walk around and across, you know, where they could step across that ditch instead of having to go down in it and back up, you know. It was a perfect spot, perfect pinch point in a big woods. But it was so hard to get into.
Yep.
So much work to get in there. Looking at me, you can tell I don't like work that much, you know. But it was great. It really was.
Yeah. You haven't been on since you killed your doe.
No.
A few weeks ago. So why don't you tell us about that?
I shot a doe.
All right. That's all that happened, huh?
That's all that happened, yeah.
All right.
Jeff and I are debating whether we're going to hold off for a few more weeks, and then we're going to assess whether we need to take some more does out of there or what we're going to do, but we're not going to anymore until he might take one more based on what his available time. But then we'll just do some evaluation and see based on the number of does we're seeing, the small area that it is, if we need to take some more out of there or let them go. But that was about 20 acres north of the food plot that we've got, and so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and you were talking about it a little bit before. There are a few does in there right now.
There's several does for no bigger than it is. Yeah.
Because you shot that one, and then I know you saw several more that evening, and Jeff did, and then
there was 5 with her. Jeff went the next morning, and based on what he was telling me, there was at least 3 others I didn't see, and there was 2 more on the camera in the food plot at that same time. So there's 10. Then he was hunting with me that night, saw 1 across the road, and then 1 blew as we were walking out. So that's 12 in a really small area. So I think it just depends on what your philosophy is on all that. But we're gonna reevaluate in a few weeks and see what happens.
Yeah, you guys pulled the card on the food plot this past week.
Yes, pulled it. Only got pictures of those does that I was telling you about that we saw that night. I've only seen a couple of scrub bucks in and around the food plot, but there's does, not regular, but semi-regular, but there's still a lot of corn out around there, and there will be for a while because the farmer, I talked to him last weekend, he's still on beans, and he's going to stay on beans until he's done with beans, and then he doesn't have a dryer, so he's going to let the corn dry naturally, and when that happens, that'll bring more of them into the woods. The people that I know that are hunting around haven't mentioned anything about big bucks, but there's does everywhere around there, so the bucks will show up. They always do. They'll run that little creek.
Yeah, it seems like about once a year we'll have one in there. If you're there on that day or that couple days, you have a chance at them. If not, then that was kind of it. But I think once the corn is out, they'll start hitting that food plot even more. And by scrub bucks, it's like 1.5-year-old bucks.
Yeah.
So
well, the old gal I shot I was going to give her a pass. Well, I did give them all a pass, and then she turned around and came back, and she was long-nosed, and I thought, well, old gal, here we go. And got her down, and she was dry. She hadn't had a fawn. She was dry. I mean, she hadn't. If she had a fawn, she lost it really, really early.
Man.
I mean, she hadn't been given milk in a long time.
Huh.
So I don't even know if she had a fawn or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, she may have had. I don't remember. I showed you the picture of the one that was in the clover plot back there early this year. Real small. It was probably one of the first. It was one of the first ones I'd seen anywhere. Could have been potentially that one, because then 2 weeks later, Marley drug the dead one up to the house. So it's potential. There's potential that she had one of those fawns or that fawn, and it died early.
Yeah.
Early on in the spring, so she hasn't been feeding anything, especially with as many does around there as there are. It's not like she's going to have to take on any orphans.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have to, you wouldn't think.
No.
So.
Yeah.
She was an old gal, so we got rid of her.
The Spencer buck, I sent you a picture that I finally found from last year. And I did some looking, and some people say that they'll switch characteristics on sides sometimes. I haven't really found anything to say they absolutely won't. But I've also not found anything from like any actual deer studies or anything like that, or institutions. So I don't know. He just seems awful similar. Big, long, skinny brow tines, long, skinny main beams. He's got that kicker point
Jeff
off the 2.
He's practically an institution.
Yeah, no, I ain't asked him yet. I guess I should.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he should be in the institution.
Maybe
that's what I was
that's probably what you were thinking.
Yeah, probably.
That's what I'm thinking. It's got to be that same deer.
Yeah.
If not, then it's just really similar genetics, and that one's got the kicker point on the other side.
Yeah.
But he's a really nice wide buck, not much mass, really tall, brow tines. One side is taller than the other. I don't know what he'll score, but he's mature. I'd shoot him. And then there's another one who doesn't have a ton going on, But the more I look at him, the better I think he looks rack-wise. I think he might go 40s.
They were both good deer.
Yeah. He's definitely a mature buck, too. So,
yeah.
Ghost, we're calling him.
Neither one of them at the food plot?
No. Well, I don't have a food plot there.
No, I mean, you got cameras north of the food plot.
Yeah, no, I haven't had anything on them yet.
You haven't run them yet?
Nope. I need to check those. I'll probably check those next week. But just to see if there's anything going on in the middle of the woods there on the field edge.
Yeah, probably not till they get that corn out of there.
Yeah. But these bucks are another piece where I had all the young bucks last year. And I thought maybe I had some pictures of the other one too, but it's just so hard to tell. I can't find any that have the short 2 and the longer 3 like what he's got. But again, there's so many young bucks that are kind of similar to that 8-point frame like him, which I think he actually might be at least a 9. It kind of looks.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know for sure if he was there last year or not. But I think that one is one that I talked about before when I didn't have any pictures of anything, one I was hoping to come back this year. And I think that may be him.
Yeah.
Which would be on that farm one of the first times that's actually happened.
Yeah.
Rarely there. And I've seen some really nice 2.5-year-olds and really nice 3.5-year-olds. There's another buck that was there last year, 3.5, that I passed at 35 yards one time, who would have went, I think he'd have went Pope and Young at 3.5 last year that I would like to see back this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I ain't seen him yet.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see on him. And then there was another, there were actually 2 in there. The other one I think might have been 2.5, but he was, if he was 2.5, he was a huge 2.5-year-old deer. So I'd like to see him again, but I haven't seen that yet either. So, but this one I think might have been one from last year, which again would be one of the first times I've seen that on that farm, which is, that's a good thing, I think. I don't know exactly who all's hunting on the neighbors or anything, or if it's all the same people that it was before. So either way, it seems like he might have made it. And I got a couple shooters now.
You got a target doe, right?
Yeah, and we do have a doe on another place that has apparently some Facebook fame, but from somebody else.
Weird, man.
But yeah, she's got some kind of flange around her neck, some sort of necklace she's wearing, where it looks like she stuck her head into something to either eat out of it. I don't know, because honestly, I don't know what it could have come out of. And it's got stuck around her neck, so she's walking around with this plastic piece.
Yeah, it almost looks like the top of a 5-gallon bucket, like the first 4 inches.
Yeah,
is around her neck.
Yeah, but I don't.
And she doesn't seem to be. She seems to be thriving with.
Oh, she's healthy. She's
doesn't bother
pretty
her.
fat old doe, but yeah, it's just kind of odd. The first picture I got of her, she was out in the field a little ways, and it didn't look as thick as it is. And it kind of looked like a radio collar. Of course, you couldn't see no antenna, but the picture was too far away to tell anyway. But then I've got several pictures of her since then, and then Jeff's buddy, who hunts around that place, has got pictures of her too. And sure enough, she's got something plastic on her neck. Yep.
We don't know what.
Yeah, I'd shoot her just because. I'd probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And mount that plastic piece.
Yep.
No. That's kind of what's on... So far, what's on the hit list? Got a couple of pictures of nice young deer.
Yeah.
Did I show you the 8-point there where that young 10 was at? That I showed you just before the podcast today?
Maybe so.
I might have.
Maybe so.
2.5-year-old probably.
I think.
8-point on that mock scrape.
Yeah.
So there's a couple good young bucks there.
Yeah.
Which, that's a place where you can go, and it's got the potential of seeing... I've seen some of the biggest deer I've seen from a tree on that property. They come up out of the river bottoms, come through there, check the does when it gets closer to rut, and work some scrapes through there.
Yeah.
And run those fence rows. But at the same time, it doesn't seem to be real consistent. It always dies off hard after gun season because it gets a lot of pressure around there.
Yeah.
So I'm still running that camera out there just to see. Closer we get, maybe if I get something regular, I'll go out there after him and hunt. But my focus for the first few times is probably going to be on those 2 bucks that I know I've got.
Yeah.
And I sent you the forecast for
next week,
the 27th, 26th, 27th.
Ooh, I thought I was seeing it. Yes, you did.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, next Tuesday, next Wednesday, it'd be. What is that?
This coming, so
yeah,
be the day after this comes out.
Yeah.
It's supposed to get down to
28 and 25.
Yeah, or the lows
Yeah.
in the mornings. But then the following week, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the following week, 26th and 27th, we're supposed to get some more rain come in, blowing another cold front and get down to those same like 30s, I think, and highs in the 50s.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably going to be the first times I really start hunting mornings.
Yeah.
Because I haven't hunted any mornings yet, and I don't plan to until then.
Yeah.
That's going to hit just perfect cold front for the end of October to be really good that Halloween, around Halloween.
Yeah. We talked about last year, the 26th. That was the last time I got Fatty's picture. And then my buck that I shot last year, I had him on 2 different cameras on the 26th in daylight. And that was because of cold snap.
Yep.
And he was up well before dark running around. And then Fatty, it was that morning, he was out running late.
Yep. I had a few pictures of does there at the cabin tonight, and some turkeys. Still haven't seen any bucks, mature bucks there. I've seen some 1.5 year, 2.5-year-olds. But I need to go back and look at last year's and the year before and see when they generally start showing up.
Yeah.
One of them last year showed up on the 4th, and if memory serves, generally it's around that first week of November where there'll be some bucks come in there and stay for a little bit and then move out.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'll go in there unless the camera's showing me something for those first few, that end of October, but probably definitely where I got those 2 shooters at. And then we might try the other place where those young bucks were at. We'll have to see. Play by ear. Maybe try Jeff's Woods of a morning. Depends on what those cameras are showing. But that's kind of my plan anyway based on the forecast. And, of course, that could change.
Yeah.
So I got some rain on the food plot that I put out there, finally.
Yep.
Of course, it's only about a 1/2 inch. But it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it didn't make mud.
No. But I think it's enough to maybe get those brassicas started. And if the turkeys haven't picked all the wheat and rye out of there, which I had more pictures of them, then maybe I'll get some of that stuff growing. That is going to be the key for the cabin, because if I don't have food there, there's not a lot of reason for them to come in consistently. They're just going to be moving through it. So we'll have to wait and see that out. And I got some more wheat coming, so I can always bail it out if I have to, if we can get another rain coming in, maybe before that cold front. But you got anything else for this week?
Not that I know of. I hope something shows up, something exciting shows up for me.
Yep.
Having a kid really slows things down.
Yep. You got plans to get those cell cameras out soon?
Yes,
yeah.
I have to. I want to.
Yep. That'll help you out too.
Yep.
Man, those things are like, I've never ran them before. It's pretty nice to not be able to have to go out there and check it and know if there's anything there or not.
Yeah.
Which maybe it probably keeps me from hunting as much as I would have without them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. Because every time you go in there, your chances of killing that buck go down, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're still scouting, but you're doing it even lower impact. And it is exciting.
Yeah.
Every time my phone goes off, I was like, there's going to be a big buck.
Yep.
And it's just a button buck, like licking the lens.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
But it gets you excited.
Yeah. I like that doe I got on mine where she's literally fogging the lens up with her nose. You know?
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to mention. I'm running the Tacticam and the 2 spy points. And so far, I can't say that I like one more than the other.
Okay.
Picture quality that I'm getting pretty much the same nighttime and daytime. The only complaint I'd have about the spy point right now, and it's only one of them, the other one's not doing it, is it, for whatever reason, it's getting real fogged up.
Really?
They're getting some blurry pictures on there. Now, that's happened there with cameras before, too, so it could just be the location.
Yeah.
Because the other one's not doing it.
Yeah.
But, like I said, so far as like ease of setup, because mine, the firmware was all updated on the spy points. So setup time was relatively similar.
Yeah.
Getting them put out there, they both seem to get signal. The spy points take a little bit longer to get signal, it seems like. Like when you turn them on, that light flashes. It takes a little bit longer to get solid than the Tacticam.
Yeah.
Again, could be in the antenna, could be the spot that they were in.
Yeah.
But 2 of them were pretty close together, so they should have similar. Other than that, the app, like ease of use within the app, pretty similar. The cell plans are a little bit different. I think the spy point's like $8 for 500 pictures maybe, and the spy point's $5 for 250, and then goes up from there.
Yeah.
But I can't say I like one more than the other yet. We'll see, I guess, as the year goes on. But batteries seem to be about the same. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yep.
But right now, they seem pretty similar.
Yep.
And they're
Good
both,
deal.
I guess, close to price point.
Yeah.
If you can find the Reveal X's, because I don't think there's a lot of them out there right now. They're moving on to their newer model. It's a little more expensive.
Is it? Okay.
But they were super popular last year, so I think a lot of people were buying them up.
Yeah.
So I probably had some issues with it. But anyway, that'll do it for this week, other than our sponsors.
What else coming in the shop?
Oh, yeah, we can get a shop update.
Oh, a shop up. Yeah, it's that time of year, right?
It is.
Well, the season come in on a weekend, and it was cooler. And so the guys, good weekend. Almost all skinheads, nothing fancy. And then the second weekend is youth gun season here in Kansas.
Yeah.
And it was cooler again. And so I seen a couple nice bucks, shooters, legitimate shooters.
Yeah.
And I mean swelled up guys. And so, and other than that, it's been skinheads and not even too many scrub bucks.
Yeah.
Guys are just seeing does and whacking them.
Yeah.
I guess the numbers are good.
Yeah.
Doe numbers are good.
Yeah.
So.
Seems to be. And I'm getting several pictures of does on cameras, too. So, I think.
Big does.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing big does.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good that they're healthy.
Yep.
That's good to see some fat on them. So, that'll do it. Like I said, aside from our sponsors for this week, as you guys know, Rack's Big Game Supplements, they're a veteran-owned company out of northeast Nebraska. Deer hunters just like us who, through years of research, developed their products to become one of the best mixes available to help improve your herd's overall health while not feeding non-target species like raccoons. They've got minerals, protein blocks, pelletized feed, and meal feed, all specifically designed for whitetails. You can use discount code RHO22 at checkout to receive 5% off your entire order at racksmineral.com, or stop by the shop and see what we've got in stock. Rodney's been running some of that stuff over in Missouri.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've showed you any of his more recent pictures. I'll have to show you those before you get out of here.
Yeah.
On his mineral site and his protein blocks, he's been getting some good pictures. So good to see that stuff working for him. Our other sponsor, as you guys know, Grandpa Ray Outdoors. If you go and look at our YouTube channel, the videos that we did at Nate's, all the videos that we did from Jeff's, all of that, aside from the clover and chicory, that's our own blend, is Grandpa Ray Outdoors seed. These guys specialize in the best nutrition for whitetail deer on your property, starting with the soil. They've got a full line of high-quality food plot seed and plant foods. They were started in 2015, but John, friend of the show, has been in the seed and nutrition business since 1991. They've got over 14 different food plot blends to choose from, so no matter what you're looking for, you're not going to have any trouble finding it. Fall, spring blends, corn and beans, switchgrass, liquid fertilizer, soil test kits, you name it, they've pretty much got it. And they're there for any of your questions that you might have too. So if you're wondering what you should plant based on your soil type and location, he'll give you a pretty good idea of what's going to work best for you. They don't believe in a cookie-cutter approach, much like us when it comes to our consulting, so they're going to treat you and your situation individually. They're not about a fancy label or package either. They're about good quality seed and taking care of their clients. Like I said, we use their seed on a lot of our stuff, a lot of client properties, and so far, everything that I've planted into good soil has come up just as good as it's advertised. So if you want to support us on their website, go to grandparayOutdoors.com and use discount code RHO Podcast, all lowercase, no spaces, and get 5% off your order. And I do have some of their stuff in stock. And I'll get more for this spring, too, when food plot season rolls back around. So that's going to do it for episode 50. 2 more, and we'll be at a year's worth if you listen to one a week. So I can't believe we've made it this far. Anyway, we'll catch you guys again next Monday. Thanks for checking it out.